So, for everybody joining us live and also joining us post event and watching the recap, welcome to Let's Talk Period Community Sessions. I'm Isabella Gosling. I'm the host and founder of Let's Talk Period, and it's the go-to podcast and community for people living with endo, PCOS, and everything in between. And this is our very first Let's Talk Period community session. So basically, it's a chance to get together, hear from an expert in the pelvic health field, and get some free info that is reputable, relatable, and able to assist you living with your chronic illness to help you manage better and feel less isolated, less alone, and more supported and more connected. And so I'm really excited to kick today off with lovely Courtney. And Courtney is just a wealth of knowledge. We've known each other for quite a few years now, and she's been through so much with me, and I've been through so much with her. But she is an incredible naturopath. She's also an endo and PCOS warrior herself. She's got her Bachelor of Health Science in naturopathy, and she's just passionate about so many things, but mainly health education, helping people take back their health. And she's just got such a passion and a fire and just beautiful energy around hormone, reproductive, gut, and mental health, and how they all interconnect and relate with each other, and especially those that are living with reproductive issues or conditions like endo, PCOS can face. So Courtney is going to be very kindly talking about all things inflammation and fatigue with us today. Like I'm sure as many of us can attest, inflammation, we hear about endo, PCOS, adeno having inflammatory components, and then also fatigue is one of the biggest symptoms with all three conditions. So why not combine those two big things and chat about them? So I will pass it over to Courtney, and just thank you everyone for being here.
Thank you so much. Nearly cried for that. That's so sweet. Just for everyone joining, my name's Courtney, as well as I've already said. I'm a clinical naturopath, so I have my own business called CB Naturopathy. And I'm really excited to share everything about fatigue and inflammation because as you'll learn through our slides, the two kind of go hand in hand. And that's why it's a really good talk because you're hitting both, but they're also so interrelated. And I think fatigue, we all say, oh, fatigue, or you'll have your friends say, I'm so fatigued. But the feeling of being fatigued from a chronic illness is such a deeper level than just, I didn't sleep enough, I didn't this. It's such a bodily feeling. And then it's also, you've got your brain fog and things like that. So I think it's very good to, put that at the forefront and explain that it's actually a really debilitating part of this condition that is not talked about, or these conditions that is not talked about. So I have a lot of slides. If it gets overwhelming, that's just how I am, unfortunately. But everything that I've talked about will be in a PDF that I have created for anyone in the community that we have here. So don't stress if it's going over your head or anything like that. It's all going to be simple in that for you to reference after tonight. So should we get started?
Absolutely. Also, if anyone has any questions throughout and you're joining us live, just pop them in the chat and we can answer them at the end. And we will have some time for questions and things like that. But that just might be better for like the flow of things. So yeah. And if you are watching this back later and you have questions, I'm sure that we can organize for Courtney to answer those as well.
Perfect. I would love that. That's cute. Yeah, definitely.
Perfect.
Cool. All right. Don't mind my screen when I share it for a second. We're all learning together. So I'm going to bring that up now. Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right. I am just going to stop I just don't want move that out of my view. Perfect. So I'm just going to see that I can slide through. Perfect. Okay, so welcome to my talk. A couple of housekeeping rules. This is a safe space, so anything or any questions that are asked here, there is no silly questions. I think it's really, really important to be able to voice your concerns or questions without feeling like it's silly or anything like that. I once was just a normal average person that, you know, does not have all of these qualifications as well. And I was seeking answers, and that's what led me to what I'm doing. That's what led you here as well. So this is a completely safe space. So ask away anything that you have. I'm going to just see if I can stop my video so I don't look at myself. Can you still see my screen? Yep.
Yeah, I just realized I was on mute. Yep, yeah.
No, that's okay. Isabella is also going to be recording clips today, so keeping your cameras off just so that you feel comfortable in your own home, and we'll use those so that we can get more information out there for everyone else, and then grow this community even more. We'll have time for questions at the end. If you have any, please put them in the chat. And then also language and terms. I am really conscious about, you know, she, he, all those kind of things, but I am trying my hardest to bring that into my life. And if I do say something like referring to a female anatomy, that is just because with the textbooks, that's what I've been drilled in for the last 4 years, but it does not take away from anybody and how they identify as well. So if I do happen to say female or anything like that, it's just because in this space, that is what we refer to. It has nothing to do with identity as well. So moving on. So coming up about me, my name's Courtney. I am a naturopath. I also have PCOS as well. So I got diagnosed at 21 after a long battle as well with it. I am a person that loves my animals, loves going out, and also thinks that just because I have these conditions doesn't mean that I shouldn't be able to live my life to the fullest, doesn't mean that I should be having to hold back and having to be strict with what I do the whole time. I should be able to experience it as much as I want and life as much as I want. So that's what led me here. We're going to talk a little bit about what inflammation is, what fatigue is. I'm going to talk to you about some advice on those subjects, and then we're going to have a look at the PDF as well. And then at the end, we'll have some final questions. So I do tend to talk fast. I will try to slow down. I knew I had a slide somewhere that went through everything. So I am, like I said, I have a Bachelor of Health Science. I have my own business called CB Naturopathy. I'm an animal lover. I have 2 cats and a dog, and my cats will probably end up here eventually annoying me, but that's fine. We love them. And I'm just a girl. I'm just one of you that is trying to figure out how to live with these conditions that are chronic and aren't going anywhere at the moment. So with that, inflammation. So with the inflammation in these conditions, they don't have an actual identified just one thing that has caused inflammation in these conditions that we are experiencing. So chronic conditions like endometriosis, adenomyosis, and PCOS are linked to long-term low-grade inflammation in the body. And while we don't know the causes, it's clear that the inflammation plays a major role in these conditions. So what happens when the body is inflamed? One of the most noticeable effects is fatigue, which many of us experience, especially after busy periods, you know, even just working, putting out the washing, those kind of things. So it has an additional to physical, it also has emotional components to it as well. And the emotional stress of managing these conditions daily can also contribute to feeling exhausted, you know, constantly being on this fight or flight, just trying to survive. It's important to recognize that living with these conditions can be tough, and that it's okay to acknowledge that and acknowledge how hard that it can be as well. So inflammation. What is inflammation? So inflammation is a natural response by the body to fight infections or heal injuries, and it is essential for our health. So however, like with adeno, or PCOS, inflammation can become chronic and staying switched on in a way, causing ongoing issues. These ongoing issues are what ends up leading to our fatigue. So with long-term inflammation, what's happening at a deeper level is we have this thing called reactive oxygen stress species, ROS. And it causes oxidative stress. So when the body is inflamed, it produces reactive oxygen species, and they come from the white blood cells. So they put these out and they go and they fight. They're like our little fighters. When there are too many of these and not enough antioxidants, which we'll get into, they help neutralize it, it can lead to oxidative stress, which I'm sure you've heard oxidative stress, but you never really kind of understood the context for it to be in as well. Oxidative stress causes damage to the body, worsening symptoms like pain and fatigue. So we need these antioxidants when we have these reactive oxygen species, or ROS, so that they can neutralize those and protect the body from damage. So think of them like the calm in a tug of war between good antioxidants and bad ROS. If the antioxidants lose the battle, it can lead to worsening symptoms and contribute to chronic fatigue and discomfort, often felt with these conditions that we have. So it's kind of like a seesaw. We need them because they're part of our natural immune system. So they're part of our natural. We see something that's happening, our body is like, we need to go fight it. We've had endo for so long, send the troops in. It's doing their job. And normally you'd get to recruit that energy. Your body would be able to fight it, feed it, and then come back and we'll be back in balance. But unfortunately, we know these conditions aren't going anywhere. So we keep sending troops out and we're not replenishing or balancing again because you can't keep up with it. So that's what can lead to more inflammation and possibly worsening our symptoms with endo as well, and our fatigue or adeno or PCOS. So then when we go into the summary for that, so inflammation is a key factor in fatigue and pain experienced by those with endometriosis, adenomyosis, and PCOS. So managing this is really, really important. So when we move into what fatigue is, I'm going to take a second and just, when it's very warm today. So when we're moving into what fatigue is something that we feel physically in our body, or it can also be mentally that we feel it as well. So you can have the physical exhaustion that many of us feel where we can't, the spoon theory. We have so many spoons every day, and sometimes just going and doing the dishes or things like that can feel really, really hard. And then unfortunately also have the brain fog and that can come with it. Why do we get that when we have inflammation? So physical fatigue, as it sounds, is the exhaustion that makes every simple task feel impossible, like putting out the washing, like I said. When the body is inflamed, fatigue can come up from several factors. So one of the main factors is the energy resources. Remember how I was saying we're sending in these troops and we're never getting them back. So the body directs much of our energy to the areas where we're inflamed. So the body's really trying to fight. Our body is doing the best it can do. I know that sometimes it's hard and we can feel angry at our body because of these conditions we have, but our body is really trying its best to get rid of it. This then depletes the energy reserves that we have. And since these conditions are long term, it can be difficult for the body to replenish these resources. Then being in pain. Being in pain can cause fatigue. The pain we experience requires more energy for our movement through the day. There's physically something changing when we're having to get up, walk around when we're in pain, continue to work when we're in pain, continuing to go study when we're in pain. So again, that's leading to more of that, like contributing more to that fatigue as well. I've got extra ones that I don't have on my list here, so I apologize. But hormonal imbalances as well, which is really, really common in all our PCOS, endo, and adeno as well. So these can disrupt our energy levels because our hormones play a really big part in our energy production. So if you've ever noticed, your ovulation motivation, there's a whole science behind that. So when we have imbalances, which we regularly see in these conditions, that can affect our energy levels. It can affect our mood. It can also trigger issues like histamine response or gut imbalances, which are really, really common in these conditions, unfortunately, as well, that we live with. And then again, that makes us feel exhausted because we are fighting all of these things all the time. Sleep. So our sleep, of course, if we're inflamed and we're stressed because we're inflamed and we're fatigued, this can lead to disturbed sleep as well. And that prevents us from getting deep restorative sleep because we might be getting 9 hours of sleep, but we're tossing, we're turning, we're having to take painkillers, which is completely fine, but it's changing the way that we sleep. And it means, you could have that 9 hours and you wake up and you feel like you're not restored at all. And that is because of that fighting action that we're going through all the time. Stress, it goes without saying, stress Inflammation and stress can lead to disturbed sleep. Again, ongoing stress, especially from long-term struggles with these conditions, can wear down the body. So our stress itself is a huge energy drain. It takes so much of our micronutrients to be able to fight stress. There's so many systems being used for stress. And if you're stressed because of the everyday things, then you're also stressed because you're dealing with these extra conditions as well. Your body is just unable to keep up. And then our immune system. Our immune system as well is what is we're using that inflammation with. So the immune system is like, we're going to go and we're going to try and fight this. And when the immune system is activated to fight inflammation, it uses up all its energy, and it can impact our neurotransmitters as well and our neuroendocrine systems. So that can actually lead to altering brain function. And that's where we kind of can get this brain fog and this sluggishness and this mood changes as well. Each of these factors can contribute to the fatigue and brain fog often experienced by those living with PCOS and endometriosis and adenomyosis. The combination of chronic inflammation and stress creates a vicious cycle that can make it harder for our body to function at its best. Was that too much for everyone? Are we okay?
I think we're doing all right.
Yeah, loving it.
Okay, cool. I know I talk a lot. I apologize. I'm trying to calm myself down. But yeah, so the big thing is that they're so interconnected. Like, I don't think people will understand really that inflammation can directly lead to the fatigue. And then how complicated these conditions are that we have. Unfortunately, they impact so many aspects of our lives that it's just, you're always fighting. No matter what you're doing, it might not feel like enough. And if you're tired, how can you do all the things that you need to do to be able to feel better as well? So there definitely needs to be more action and more understanding around the fact that, yeah, okay, I'm tired. If I do all these things that I've been told, I'll feel better, but you're tired. It's really hard for you to do all those things because that takes more energy that you just don't have. So what can we do? So food is medicine. That is one of our biggest things as naturopaths. However, it cannot take away these conditions. I am not oblivious to the fact that you can be eating all these things and still be in pain, but these are the building blocks to try and replenish those reserves that we've had. So when those reserves have been drained, we need to be able to put the macro and micronutrients back into it so it can function again. Gut health. So gut health is actually really, really closely linked to these conditions as well. So microbiome imbalances, parasites, all those kind of things, because our immune system is impaired because it's fighting all that inflammation. So then we can actually have impaired gut health as well. And then if we're unable to eat right, or if we're inflamed, our gut can become inflamed as well. And then they can lead to more issues down the track. So, and then more inflammation. Liver health. So when we have hormonal issues, so say we have too much estrogen, which is really, really common in endometriosis specifically, that can lead to a burden on the liver, and it's overworking like the rest of the body. And there's already too much estrogen. It can't keep up with removing it from the body. So the body uses that estrogen and puts it back into circulation, and the liver becomes slower and it can't process it as much, and it just kind of is this big cycle. Lifestyle, movement is one of the best things that we can do, but it feels impossible sometimes. And I think we need to move away from what movement is. So movement does not need to be, I go to high intensity. I could not consider going to high intensity. But movement is walking, stretching, just being able to do what we can, even if it's just lying down and stretching while we're lying down. Just those kind of things. Get the body moving, but at your own pace and what you're able to do at that time. And then setting boundaries. I put this in here just because it's one of my biggest things is boundaries are really, really hard when I think we have chronic illnesses, because we think that we need to do all those things and make up for things we may be quote unquote lacking. You know, we may feel like we are unreliable because we're sick all the time. Well, no, as a person, we're not unreliable. Our sickness makes us unreliable. So we need to be really strong with our boundaries, what we can and can't do, and not feel like we need to make up for anything anywhere, because we are completely fine the way we are. We are good people, and usually some of the most compassionate people to other people, because we can see what it's like and we lived experience. We know what it's like to struggle. And then compassion is to have compassion for yourself, not others. It's the whole what would you say to your best friend? We need to be able to reflect that back into ourselves as well, because we deserve compassion, especially from ourselves, because we are fighting every day to be able to live our best lives with these conditions. So, practical tips. Food for fuel, like I said. I will always start with diet when it comes to any of these long-term conditions. So food is medicine. Before we look at spending money on supplements and heavily marketed things, let's make sure that we've got the basics under control. Eating the rainbow color, making sure we're getting all those vibrant colors, some pinks, some greens, anything to mix it up and make it less bland as much as possible. Eating enough. I find a lot, especially in the women's health space and this space, is that we are so tired and fatigued. Obviously, we have inflammation, so it makes it hard, and then we're not eating actually enough compared to overeating. Everyone's worried about overeating, but most of the time my clients are undereating, and it is better to have those reserves there to be able to replenish than not and be already on empty before waking up, before moving through your day, before doing anything. And then moving into our daily practices as well. So bulking our foods is one of my favorite things to do. I'll talk more about that soon. Bulking your foods is making it as fun and enjoyable as you can, and it doesn't have to be complex as well. Movement, like I said, that can be whatever makes you feel good. If you just want to go for a walk, if you can just only walk around your lounge, that's fine. That's all it takes. But just getting up and kind of just moving everything around, letting your gut, letting your food move through, digestion, those kind of things. And then sunshine exposure. So you can double that movement if you just want to go through a walk in the park or just a walk outside or to sit outside. That's going to really help with our immune system, our energy, our sleep, and vitamin D. Like, it's honestly so underrated, and it's really hard to actually get outside when we're tired. I understand. Go sit by a window. That will be easier than having to fully go outside. And stress management, we can all laugh at me. I know how hard that is. It's not as simple as it seems, but having good stress management techniques that work for you. If that is calling your friend, that's fine. If that is calling your mum, that's fine. If that is breath work, if that's meditation, if that's psychology, we need to identify what helps us when we're stressed, because as we saw, stress really impacts our fatigue. And it's hard. I can't take away your stress. There's no way we can. I'm not saying that's what it will do, but we need to be able to help you cope with the stress. Can't take it away, but help you cope. Then if you have done all the things and you still need help, then that's where we kind of come through. And if you are going to supplement, just be really, really careful, and please make sure you check all your medications before buying something off the shelf or ordering online, because often us people in this space will self-prescribe. We've seen this really good supplement, that's fine, but we're also, most of us are on, or I'd say a big portion of us are on oral contraceptives of some sort, or blood thinners for vein issues or things like that, and they can be really, really impacted if you combine the supplements you're on with your medications you're on. You need to be really careful, and it can be something that can it can really impair you, and it can be causing you side effects that you didn't know. And if they're really bad quality, you're just kind of having expensive pee, and that's why I put that in there, because if it's not good, or there's too many things happening, or it's not exactly what you need, we already are tired, we're inflamed, we're stressed. We don't need to be throwing the money away as well. So the nutrition, there are 3 slides in this, so I'm not going to go over it every single item, but in your PDF, you actually will have all of this simplified so that you can refer to it when you need to. But it's just to kind of know, it sounds like it's everything, but they're all important. And I'll give you practical tips after these 3 slides of how you can easily get those in without having to be like, oh my goodness, I need to get these 11 things in. But really, really important to start off is our protein. And why is that important? It's because it's for our hormone balancing. Our energy is protein. We're reducing our inflammation and our immune system regulation. So, you know, everyone kind of knows those. I'm just going to close the door. Everyone kind of knows the protein sources that are meat protein sources, but I find a lot of this community are vegetarian or vegan as well because they've had to live with gut issues and things, and that's just what works for them, and that's completely fine. I was vegetarian for 7 years as well. So we need to make sure we're knowing, even if we're not having those main meat protein sources, what other sources we can do. So simple things like broccoli, black beans, you know, your oats, your tempeh, hemp seeds, legumes, you know, nuts and seeds, those kind of things, just adding them to the top of your foods can really help to increase your protein intake. Fiber. I'll give a little spiel about why we need so much more fiber than what we're eating. So fiber is really, really important because it helps our gut microbiome, 100%, and the waste removal, especially with endometriosis, PCOS, all those kind of conditions, adenomyosis, that have these excess hormones. How are we going to get rid of it? Well, the body gets rid of it by getting rid of it in our stools. So if we're not going to the toilet properly because we don't have enough fiber, or we're not having enough water, what happens is the body is really, really smart and it tries to get rid of the excess hormones in the stool. And if the stool doesn't move out in a certain amount of time, the body is kind of like, oh, there's some estrogen in this, and it can uptake that estrogen again and kind of recycle it. So we want to make sure we're getting rid of that all in, you know, in a timely manner and without any pain, without any straining, without any bleeding, and without any mucus as well. So if you're having any of those things, you know, or you know, constipation long term or diarrhea, it's definitely something to flag. And those are like, you know, or we always hear it, like our vegetables are the go-to. To have some veggies, some kiwi fruit, any fruits really, our oats, whole wheat's the best. But even if you can only just butter some toast, like make sure buttering some toast and having those every day to really help get rid of those excess hormones. Prebiotics and probiotics. Probiotics improve our gut. They kind of both work on our gut, right? And they both reduce our inflammation. They support our mental health. And so those for your probiotics, you've got your things that are your fermented foods, so your yogurt, sauerkraut, those kind of things. And your prebiotics are like your onions, your leeks, and then we start to see oats are there as well. Asparagus is there, and they're constantly through a lot of these. So the best thing I can say for when you're wanting to build a meal is try and pick foods that kind of they're prebiotic and they've got protein, or they're prebiotic and they've got fiber, and make it a lot easier on yourself by kind of mixing and matching foods that are kind of across the board good, which most whole foods are anyway. Zinc, so these are going into our micronutrients, so they're anti-inflammatory, they help with our gut barrier function, and I haven't gone into it, but our gut is really important with these conditions as well, and they aid in our immune system. So we've got a lot of seeds and eggs and, you know, some mushrooms, and so again, protein is in our little nuts as well. We've got your beef there, so you're getting your beef and your protein and your zinc. So you kind of, and then your vitamin A if you look over, and then with our iron. So it doesn't have to be this one specific food to hit all these goals. I just want to let you know that these are the kind of nutrients that our body really, really likes and really needs when we're inflamed and fatigued. Vitamin A, again, immune system support and anti-inflammatory. We've got our liver and our salmon, which, you know, salmon is also omega-3 fatty acids. So that again is hitting other boxes that we're going to come to. We've got, if you notice, a lot of fruit and vegetables are going to hit a lot of these things as well. But I've just put the list there so that if you're a picky eater like me, you can try and find something in each list that will work. Our iron is really important. Now, commonly, women going through these conditions will have heavy periods. So we're losing a lot of iron, and it's actually really hard for women and people with these conditions to get enough iron in the day, because we need so much more than the average man or child or those kind of things, the opposite sex, however you want to put it. But it is in our reproductive years, it is really, really hard for us to get that. So we're making sure we're getting meat that are just cut blanket meat, because it's going to help. Poultry, seafood. But the main thing is, if you are vegetarian or vegan, we really, really want to make sure that we're getting our legumes or our broccoli or our wholemeal foods, tofus, leafy greens daily, because we need more of it to be able to make up. If we were to have minced meat, we're going to get a higher amount of iron than we are if we have tofu. So we need to have more of those things. Make a variety of it. Make it easy. You can have dark leafy greens, you know, spinach and things like that with some tofu and some legumes. Like that's going to really help boost your day. Top it with some nuts and seeds. That's how I would build a meal to make sure that we have iron in it. And then we're also going to be ticking zinc and vitamin A in that. Antioxidants, they're what we need because we talked about them when it comes to the Ross species. They are pretty much all our good fruit and veggies. They're anti-inflammatory. They reduce that oxidative stress. So raspberries, blueberries, all your dark vegetables, red cabbage, broccoli, asparagus again, and potatoes. So really, really, really good. Again, don't stress. This is all going to be in your slides, in your PDF. So don't stress too much. But omega-3s as well. I said salmon was going to come back up, and our flax seeds and our chia seeds and our nuts. So omega-3s are really good for our anti-inflammatory actions. They can help also reduce pain and may help with regulating our menstrual cycle. So our PCOS girlies, especially when, or PCOS people, especially when they're having these issues with, you know, long cycles, 40 days, 45 days, making sure we're getting those omega-3s. And if you don't eat seafood, it makes it quite hard. And I don't eat seafood, so there's literally no judgment. I have flax seeds and chia seeds and walnuts and hemp seeds and spinach to try and make up for that. B vitamins. B vitamins are my favorite thing for mental health as well. That's a side note. But they help with us aiding in our menstrual regulation, anti-inflammatory. They also can help with our pain reduction as well. And then also mood support, which isn't on there as well, because our B vitamins are really part of the cycle of creating a lot of our neurotransmitters. So we want to make sure we're getting those, especially when we're stressed and inflamed and fatigued. Again, we're looking at our salmon, fatty foods, eggs, mushrooms, chickpeas, leafy greens. See how we can easily build our foods to better our health by just adding in a couple of little things. We're just going to have toast. Why don't we add some avocado to it? Put some spinach on it, add an egg onto it, top it with some Greek yogurt, put some nuts and seeds on it, and all of a sudden we have this really better for you meal that's going to hit 100, like so many more, 100% of what we kind of want to do each meal. So we're wanting to really just put as many nutrients as we can in there. And they don't have to be hard. Get your bagged salad, you know, add that straight onto the toast. Pre-boil your eggs once a week so you don't have to if you can have boiled eggs. Have your Greek yogurt. You don't have to do anything with that, and top with seeds, put some sauce on it. Like, it doesn't have to be as extravagant as it feels. And there's nothing wrong with eating leftovers. If they're a good balanced meal, just wake up and eat the leftovers. It doesn't have to be a breakfast food. Those kind of things are really important to move away from, and just do what you can while you're fatigued. Magnesium is vital for our energy, our menstrual cycle, PMS, muscle aches, headaches, and mental health. And we unfortunately do get a lot of muscle aches. So typically in our legs, our back, we get the headaches, and the mental health kind of goes down the drain with everything else because we are fighting every day. So making sure we're getting our magnesium in as well, cashews, leafy greens, spinach. You see the patterns that we're kind of going for. And then our spices. So just cooking with these spices can really help be anti-inflammatory. So your turmeric, your garlic, your kills me every time, cinnamon, cardamom pods, ginger, cayenne, and black pepper are some really good anti-inflammatory. Also green tea, didn't put on there, but green tea is really good as well. So if you can, you know, cook a bit of turmeric, or make sure you're putting garlic with most of your meals, putting some ginger, having a ginger tea when we're in pain and we're having those cramps as well can also help with your energy. So yeah, trying to mix those in as much as we can without it feeling overwhelmed. I don't expect you to pick one food from each category and have them separate. I really want you to be able to make a list and be like, I love fatty fish. That's going to go 1, 2, 3 of those things, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the things that I need. And then you can feel good because you know that you're ticking all these boxes and you're making it as easy as you can for yourself. Yeah. Okay, moving on to lifestyle. Exercise. I used to hate when people would tell me to exercise. It will help your energy, but it does. But It doesn't have to be what Instagram or Facebook is telling us is exercise. Movement is enough. Yoga, stretching is enough. Just getting up and walking around the block when we feel like we can't, well, don't do that if you feel like you can't. But moving to your body and finding movement that you enjoy, and start off small. So if you like Pilates rather than a high intensity, there are so many good YouTube resources of free Pilates, free yoga, those kind of things that are less intense. Like, I'm not saying Pilates isn't, I sweat so bad, but it's less of that high intensity. It's more movement. There's usually some yoga in the beginning of it, and you can usually do 10 minutes to 20 minutes and do that a couple of times a week when you feel like you can. Again, boundaries for yourself and compassion for yourself. Sleep. Easy for me to say sleep when you feel like you can't because you have fatigue and inflammation, but there are things we can do, and I am the worst when it comes to being off my phone for the first hour after waking. It's on my to-do list. It's actually in my challenge, and I've not met it yet. But the reason being is that blue light filter, like the blue lights that are on their phones and things, they actually start our circadian rhythm, and that can start to put us out. So if we're waking up and going straight on our phone, one, mentally horrible. I already feel behind once I wake up. I already feel like, oh my goodness, my food isn't as good as that, or this and that. I'm not up and, at my business and fully booked like other people are on that day. That starts you off on a downer. And then 2 hours before bed, and that's so we can really wind down. Those screens are so bright, they're going to keep our body awake because I think it's the sun. Our bodies are really smart from evolution, but it also is basic where it's the sun's up, the sun's down. That's kind of what we go off. Circadian rhythm goes off that. So if we're constantly in these lights, we're just going to throw that out. And no coffee after 12, still guilty of it, but I have to put it there. And that's simply because the long-term effects, and the caffeine can stay in our body for a really long time and still affect our sleep as well. Stress management, again, like I said before, don't think that I think it's easy to support your stress. Having gone to uni, had these conditions, I understand how hard it is to actually do these things, and even to get into a therapist or psychologist that you like. But they're really, really important, and it doesn't have to be, I would always say to go to a therapist or a psychologist, and to find somebody. I say it's kind of like finding a good boyfriend. Doesn't mean that all of them are going to work for you, and they're not going to all work for the same condition. So you might have trauma, or you might have stress, and you might go to different therapists for different things, and that's okay too. But stress management can be nature walks. Get out, get away from the phone, get the fresh air. Breath work, I'm a big fan of breath work and meditation, and there are free apps. So my go-to app is Medito. It's a free app for meditation and breath work. They also have like SOS packs. So say I'm really, really stressed, I'm about to go into a job interview, or something is I'm about to go into a doctor's appointment, and I'm really, really stressed about these results, and I kind of normally just go a bit blank-minded when I'm in there because of the stress. This is really good to do breath work or meditation before I walk in, to really kind of ground myself. And so using an app like that, or just doing, 10 minutes just in your head. And meditation is hard. It's not meant to be easy. And it's a practice. Sometimes you'll be good at it, sometimes you won't. I absolutely hated it at the start. I could barely do 3 minutes, and I still have resistance to it now, but I do know that it helps me when I do it, unfortunately. And then sunlight. This helps us with our sleep and energy, hence the phone issue. All of a sudden we can't go to sleep because we have this light on. Our body is like, it's daytime still. So it supports our immune system as well. It supports our gut microbiome. Believe it or not, it also helps our mental health and our sleep regulation. So making sure when we first wake up, one of the easiest tips we can do is move to sunlight. As soon as you get up, away from the phone, go to a natural window. If we can't get outside, that's fine. Have a cup of tea, spend some time near the sunlight area. And then we want to have about 15 minutes at least in the sun a day in summer, and 20 minutes on 25 minutes on a cloudy day, because you are still getting that sun exposure. And obviously sun safe tips, sunscreen, those kind of things as well. Don't just go stand out and say, Courtney said to do this. And I have my extra resources. Again, I already did my spiel about breathwork and meditation. I forgot they're actually in the next slide, but here we are, me talking about it again. We can do really simple things like the 3 seconds in, we hold, and then 3 seconds out. So 3 seconds in, breathing, 3 seconds hold, and then 3 seconds exhale can really, really bring you down. I should have done it probably at the beginning of the talk so that I didn't talk as fast, but that's fine. Stress management, again, our meditation, things like that. And then our mental health, again, I've talked about going to psychologists, and then having kindness to ourselves. Like I said, speak to yourself the way you would support a friend as well. So speak to yourself the way that you would speak to your best friend. Would you tell them you're just lazy, it can't be that bad, go have a baby, as we talked about before? Those kind of things, like, making sure that you're talking to yourself with compassion, because you deserve compassion. And this is the final little bit. I'm not going to go into me too much because it's not my vibe, but how naturopathy can help is we always help with diet and lifestyle. So getting all those overwhelming diet things I was talking about, it's our job to make that easy for you. It's our job to make that easily accessible to you as well. So we will come up with, depending if you have gut issues, we think maybe there's liver, if there's other impending things, we will help you get the nutrients you need for your gut to be happy and for you to be supported through these issues as well. Lifestyle, we always give lifestyle tips as well because they are really, really important. Having compassion, connection. I always ask all my clients, do you have a good support system? Yes, no. If you don't, what can we do to get you one? How can we create you one? Because it is a very lonely road having these conditions. And then we also can come in with our herbs and nutraceuticals and our supplements and things like that. And none of that should be long-term. You are living with a long-term condition. But my idea is to bring you in, get you the basics, get this under wraps, and then graduate you out. And then give you the tools. My whole idea in what I do is giving you the tools to be able to do this yourself. I don't want you to have to come to me forever. I'd love it. That's fine. But the whole idea is that if you start to feel better and then something happens, stress happens, I get a stomach bug, something like that, I've given you the advice and the building blocks for you to be able to bring your gut health back in, for you to be able to bring your energy back in, because you know all those things because we've gone through it. We know what works for you because we've done the groundwork together. Okay, one last thing I did want to talk about, the making the diet not complicated. I wanted to quickly give one of my best tips that I have for my clients is to make, if we're tired, make a platter board for ourselves. So even if it's making a little lunchbox for ourselves, get some hummus, get some crackers, get some dip, put some nuts in there, put a tiny bit of dark chocolate, make it more balanced by putting, the hummus in there. We've got protein, we've got some of our veggies, we're also getting that magnesium out of our dark chocolate while also getting to feed our beautiful chocolate cravings. Our nuts and seeds are going to do those macro and micronutrients. We don't need to make things complicated. We need to make things as simple as we can. And I love to prep it the night before. And I even just do it in a lunchbox, as I would if I was leaving the house to work at the clinic. I will actually pre-make these things, put it in the fridge, and then the next day, if I don't have the mental capacity or the physical capacity to go and make myself food, even though I've got all the food here that I could make, I will just go and pick at those things and it will make it easier. Or I'll have a protein shake with my toast because I didn't have the energy to make eggs with it or anything like that. That's okay to supplement with protein shakes for now until we get to a point where we have enough energy to be able to eat our protein from another source. So that was just a little thing that I think is really good. I really harp on about it. Like, just make it fun, make it exciting, enjoyable. It's important to enjoy your food and to not feel like it's a chore. But yeah, so I also am going to do a little discount as well. So I put a code there, LTP fam, and I have it valid for the next 3 months. So you'll get $61 off your appointment if you want to work with me. But I'm hoping that this has given you a really good base place to start off to kind of see where you can improve yourself. Make sure that you've got these kind of things under wraps before needing to get any more help. Yeah, sorry if that was a lot.
Does anybody have any questions for Courtney? If you don't feel like using your microphone, that's so fine. You can pop them in the chat. And then, yeah, if you're joining at a later date, and you're watching the recording back and you have any questions, if you send through an email to hello@letstalkperiod.com.au or send me a DM on Instagram, or if you DM Courtney as well, I'm sure we can work out answering the questions if you have any there. But yeah, if you've got any questions, now's the time to ask. As Courtney said at the start, no question's a silly question. This is a safe space and a chance in these sessions to get access to a health professional that is giving their time and can be here as a resource for us.
Yeah, I've got a question for Courtney, if I could.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's something that I know I particularly struggle with, and so do some of my friends who have endo. So at certain times or parts of the cycle, really, really struggle with nausea, and like that you have to eat to feel better, and that will like cure the heartburn and all of those sorts of things. But it's such a mental and physical struggle to get past that first hurdle, to get that first bite in your mouth. Do you have any tips for overcoming that sort of thing?
Definitely. So I would start, yeah, it's hard individually, but ginger tea is, I know it sounds so blanket, but like ginger tea will be really, really good to help with that nausea. And sometimes the nausea is made worse by not eating. And I know it is a mental game. I don't mind if, I think, take away the restrictions for now on what you need to eat to make yourself feel better in that moment, right? Like, I'm not somebody that says restrict and you have to eat well all the time, but if you can't stomach or you can't even think about eating a piece of chicken, but you could eat a piece of bread and, just a piece of bread and butter, honestly, just do it. Like, don't guilt yourself into thinking, I'm not fueling my body the right way that I think other people think I should. You're trying your best at that moment. So I think just however you can, but in a clinic setting, I'd really want to be looking at why we're getting nauseous at those times, which 100% it happens to a lot of people. But it's whether there's a microbiome imbalance or things like that. So it kind of depends person to person. But I would say the biggest thing is just have what you can without feeling guilty. Like, that's the biggest thing. I think we get a lot of guilt put on us about how we should, it's the typical, I've had literally people say to me, oh, you go out on the weekends, you're sick, you shouldn't do that. It's like, oh, okay, so I meant to stay at home and I meant to like live a certain type of life because I'm sick. No, I should get to enjoy it. So if that is just basically having the plainest food or eating a piece of chocolate at that moment until you have something in your stomach, like, just do it. It's not going to blow away everything, I don't know if that gave you enough of an answer,
Yes,
but
it
it's
did.
just like a hard space to do.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
That's okay, no problem. I am sweating in here. And I can show the PDF quickly if we have time.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be great.
Cool. Just don't mind my screen and my screensaver. This is mine and my husband's computer, so it's like this is the booklet that everyone that has attended is going to get. And anyone who has signed up, it kind of just goes over what inflammation is again, like why we have it, why it occurs. It's not the enemy, but it is the enemy in long term. Just a little bit more kind of condensing that information that I didn't explain the best at the beginning, but we'll get there. Then we go to our macro and micronutrients. I actually went a bit more in this because the talk was going to be way too long. So I actually put that in here about our balance. So balancing our meals, how we can do that, adding the protein, just some hummus, like making it simple. If it's just a protein powder in your smoothie while you have your toast, that's completely fine. Carbohydrates and our healthy fats. So it kind of gives a little bit of why, what those ratios and the type of foods in there as well. And then we go through the practices. Don't overthink it is my biggest one. Again, using protein powders, even high protein ready-made meals. Like, if that's all you can do right now, do it, because it's better for you to eat than have an all or nothing mentality. And that is really common. Is like, if I can't eat well, I'm just not going to eat. And then we're empty. Like, how are we going to get that energy back if we're not eating? So that's one of the biggest things as well. And then, like I said, we've got this all condensed here, our protein, probiotics, all of your nutrients there. So I don't have to go back over it again. Our exercise, sleep, stress management, sunlight, and then like how I can help. So I hope that has everything in there kind of that we would need practicality. I didn't want to give you 17 slides worth, but I just wanted to give you the bite-sized pieces that you can actually do in your everyday life without overwhelming yourself as well. So, you know, going through these lists and picking one food that hits 3 things, perfect, feel good for the day. You've done a really good job of being able to make it as simple as possible for yourself to feel better. Yeah, that's all I have. So we will send that out. I'll get Isabella to send that out because technology is obviously not my thing.